Hi. I'm Bob. Bob?
Yeah. People think they know you. They only see you as Bob. They pity Bob. I'm the only one who knows what your real potential is, Robert. And it is limitless.
I hadn't heard of Sentry before Jake told me about him, but I did a bunch of research before I started this, and it was just extra gratifying to start doing a deep dive and only finding that I felt more and more for him the more I learned.
I just have this feeling that something bad happened, or I did something bad.
I think Lewis is absolutely genius. I couldn't quite imagine where Bob was going to go in this. And I think what Lewis has done was really hard work. He really had to fill in a lot of blanks, and he did a masterful job.
Well, we have a little bit of a moment there.
We need to tell a story. Yeah.
It's not all about the action, okay? Just because you're in a golden suit now.
I've been getting lost in the action.
There's a very hard part, you know, like you're playing 3 people, essentially.
Luckily, Jake, had a very clear-cut idea of how we could kind of map it out in a more logical way.
We would have a call every weekend and kind of talk about what was coming up for the week and really try to map out, like, what are the beats this week? Which of these beats are Bob beats, which are Sentry beats, and which are Void beats?
Don't hurt her. Robert, the hero.
Bob's introduction is a pretty good one, I think, because you just get out of this massive fight sequence with all these superheroes, and then this weird guy just appears.
It's getting so tense in here.
Sort of the first act is trying to figure out, is he a part of it, or, how can he help?
Maybe I should have a gun?
No, I don't think so.
A large part of Bob's history is this kind of repetition of wanting to help and wanting to be of service, but every time he tries, it always makes things worse.
Hey! Over here!
One of the really fun things about designing Sentry's look was that we are not designing it through the scope of somebody trying to be an actual hero. We are designing it through Val's intention to make a very advertisable superhero.
Gold, blue, gold. I think it really works.
The gold is from the source material, but I have to admit it made me really nervous because if it's done wrong, it could be looking like a cheesy Vega suit. So there was a lot of R&D and a lot of testing of the gold color, and then we decided to print them to break the light, to make it much more interesting. Of course, with gold, because it sort of partially absorbs but partially reflects the light, you just never know what's going to happen when it gets on the set.
Putting it on for the first time, like seeing myself in the suit was the very first time where I was like, oh, I'm a part of this world. And it was exciting and terrifying.
He's having fun. We're having such a good time together.
Certain things, physically that you think you're doing that maybe don't actually communicate well visually. And so it was helpful to be able to watch what I thought was working and then watch the frame and kind of then adjust from there.
There's a sense of invincibility. It's dangerous. It's dangerous for just a normal pedestrian like myself.
The Sentry is this experiment gone wrong or gone right accidentally. And he unknowingly has, become the most powerful superhero.
Sentry, your first mission is to take out these criminals.
Valentina sees Sentry as her creation. She feels that she's entitled to have power over him, and he begins to push back against that.
They're not a threat to me, so why do I need to kill them?
You need to do what I say, Robert.
This great gift that he's been given doesn't mean anything new if it doesn't actually involve his input and what he wants. And it is a little bit of this drunkenness and intoxication of power.
You were gonna turn on me, just like the rest of them.
I'm not afraid of you, Robert.
It's not Robert you need to be afraid of.
He is incredibly strong, he's incredibly fast, he can fly. He also can disappear people into this massive growing void, which is what was inside of him.
How do these characters confront someone like the Sentry, who in our natural world is far too powerful because he can't really exist in the world given his power? It's more of a metaphor for both sides of mental health, of, you know, the hubris and then also the despair that comes underneath.
You can't outrun the emptiness.
When you go into the void, you go into this shame space, which is your shame, your worst shames, the worst moments, and you feeling like you're responsible for them from your life being played on a loop over and over and over again. So that's what was inside Bob. And now, as the void, it's what happens to everyone else.
The thing that sets this sequence apart is the realism that we wanted to bring to it. And so what we did is we created these literal four-walled sets that you have to break through in order to move into the next room.
The beginning and end of every sequence is either impact through a wall, impact on a table, impact through a mirror. Everything is happening in real time, and it's a do-si-do between me and my stunties. But especially something like this, I got to run from one side of a set to the other, and we had a fake wall. And the moment I made impact, the whole thing broke and dust powdered everywhere. Just as an actor, being able to do that and to know that that is one motion and one take, and when it comes out, we'll be able to say that we truly actually did that whole sequence.
And 3, 2, 1, go!
It's very complicated. There's no way around that because it's following Jake's singular vision for the whole thing.
There's the tilt, and then there's like one last push of like running up to the door, and if you kind of ran at the door, then you could do a cut for it.
I've been working with him since the very beginning on this, and he's always had the same references, the same eye for the progression that the actors will travel through, take them from this void space room to that void space room.
It's fun to be collaborative and figuring out how we can do all these things within tight, small spaces. Working with the special effects team and working with stunts and VFX and Jake and figuring out how all these pieces tie together, how they transition, and how actual set pieces can move to make it functional for filming.
So this is Bob's attic, built it actually, so that through that hole we could put the bathroom set and also the training room set, so when she sees Bob in the mirror, that's all done practically and he's actually in the reflection, and that we would tie those sets together so in one shot you could just sort of actually pan into this room.
Hey, what's up?
Not much, you know, just watching New York disappear into a big maze of interconnected shame rooms. You ever seen anything crazy like that before?
The attic is tricky because you have all these actors in there. It's a small space. You know, things are flying at them. We had to have breakaway pieces of furniture for stunt people and then softer ones for actors, and there's a lot that goes into that.
Who's doing this, Bob?
Oh, I think I am.
Whenever you're given the real thing, you are reacting, you are not acting. And having a chair hit me as opposed to me pretending that a chair is hitting me, actually having a curtain around my neck as opposed to pretending having a curtain around my neck, it changes everything.
You read those things on the page, and then to see them is a whole other thing. You know, the sequence where there's like a sword cutting the curtain, and then there's Sebastian like slamming a shelf down, and then Wyatt's like banging a brick, and then David is ripping a pillow, and it all happens in like 3 seconds, but it takes us like 6 hours.
What is Bob's biggest shame? It was the shame of actually signing up for that study, thinking he could be the Sentry, he could be that hero. Every time Bob has the hubris to do something heroic, everything goes wrong. And so in a weird way, this lab could be the last kind of void room.
You don't matter to anyone.
That's not true!
Essentially, he realizes and is taught through Yelena's protection and affection and like trust that the only way to really beat the void is within himself, and that looks like him visually, physically fighting himself.
I'm stronger than you. Let's see.
It's a tricky thing, right? To have to keep bouncing back and forth between these two versions of yourself. And then not only do that, but do that within a scene. For every shot, he has to shoot both passes of that fight. It has to be Lewis on frame on both sides of that thing. To watch the kind of physicality and emotion within that moment that he brought to it, I mean, it's just incredibly impressive.
While they ultimately have to fight this void who is going to erase the universe, the only way to beat him is kind of a group hug.
Bob admires the Thunderbolts greatly. It's a big dream of his to kind of be a part of something like they're a part of, and so I think when they all come to the rescue, it's maybe one of the first moments that he feels like accepted. The fact that they come back for him, he is still seen and loved and embraced.
You were great in there, Bob.
Thanks, Walker. Hey, wait, and where?
Going forward, the real question would be like, is it wise for him to attempt to even be the Sentry? You know what I mean? Because with it always comes this inevitable dark side, and like maybe what Bob needs to learn is how to just be Bob.